All right, you're going to need one of these little Easter baskets from Dollar Tree, something to cover it in. There are several options you can choose from. Some type of fabric. I purchased mine at Hobby Lobby, but you can get it at Dollar Tree. And then any type of embellishment, lace, twine that you might need. Okay, so your first step here is just to go ahead and break down the basket. I'm going to take the eggs out. They were just kind of in there with these little pegs, and just pull those out, set them aside because you will be using them again. And then just go ahead and break this down like you normally would. Just unwrap all the tinsel. And then I just threw my tinsel away, but I did save the little purple bow just in case I wanted to use it later. All right, and as I was breaking this down, as you can see here, this actually came apart very easily and snapped together. So another option for you is if you wanted to repurpose one of the Dollar Tree signs, you could attach this basket very easily to it just by using the half that has the handle, and that way it would lay flat against your sign and give you a different look if you didn't want to use this as a standalone decor piece. And now comes the fun part of going ahead and putting whatever you choose on top of the basket. So I'm just using hot glue. I'm literally just going to take wads of this and just go around patting it in there and just continuing to layer it until I get it covered how I want it to look. Okay, and this is what it looks like. I actually put something on my Facebook group asking them, what do you think this is going to turn into? And they all guessed, most of them guessed bird's nest. You would have never known this was going to be a basket. But basically, once you get as much as you want on there, now I'm just going to take scissors, I'm going to start trimming, and then in spots that it's kind of bare, I'll just pack it with some hot glue and some more, and then just get it shaped how I want it to look. Alright, your next step is to go ahead and cover your eggs with fabric. So I wanted to try to get parts of the fabric, certain parts of it, I mean, on my egg. And so I'm not looking to get my egg to be perfectly smooth. So a little tip and trick here is if you want your egg really smooth, then you need to cut the fabric square that you're going to put on it very large. The larger you make it, the better you'll be able to smooth it. So mine was about 6 inches by 6 inches is what I ended up with. So I'm basically just going to cut it and then put it around it, and then I'll go ahead and secure it. Okay, to secure my fabric around my egg, I'm just using some twine that I just tied, and then I'm gonna kind of pull on the fabric a little bit, kind of like that fabric wrapped pumpkins that I did with zip ties. You certainly could do that if you wanted to use a zip tie here. I don't think it's necessary, but I'm basically, once I get the look, I'm just gonna secure with the twine, and then I'm gonna go ahead and wrap my other 2 eggs with fabric. The eggs are all wrapped, and so now I'm just going to trim off a little bit of the extra fabric here. I am leaving little tails because I want it to kind of help the eggs hold steady inside the basket. And then once I trim off this fabric, I'm ready to go ahead and stick them inside the basket. The eggs are all secure inside my basket. I did not have to use any hot glue or anything to help them stay in there. They're perfectly snug. And then I decided I wanted a little bit more embellishment on my basket, so I'm using some of this lace that came from burlapfabric.com. And I'm just going to simply put some hot glue and put this kind of around the top part of the basket, and then I'll get a little piece of twine and tie a bow, and my basket is finished. Okay, I did want to quickly show you that if you wanted to add some little flowers from Dollar Tree, you could add that as an embellishment if you'd like. If you were lucky enough to score some of these carrots from Dollar Tree, you could put those inside of there. So there are a lot of options as far as what you could do with this basket. All right, guys, there you go. Here is my cute little basket that I can't wait to put out. So let's now move in to our next Easter DIY. For this project, you will need 2 of these candle holders. I have the tall one and the medium-sized one, a 2-pack of the LED candles, a lampshade template, which I will link down below in the description box, scrapbook paper, fabric, burlap, whatever you want to make your shade out of, and some double-sided tape. So I'm going to start by just quickly cutting out my template. Now, typically when I make templates, I do print them on cardstock because I want them to be a little sturdy. I will say this template actually gave me a little trouble when I was tracing it because it was flimsy, but all my cardstock currently is packed up because of my craft room renovation, so I just had to print it out on regular paper. So I would recommend, if you plan on doing a bunch of these, to go ahead and print it on cardstock. Then all I'm gonna do is go ahead and pull off the labels and get these candle holders ready. Okay, so I knew I was going to use scrapbook paper from this all-season scrapbook paper pack that I got from Hobby Lobby. If you're planning on using this year-round, I would recommend getting this pack because you could change out the shades for all kinds of different holidays. So I found the Easter ones that I wanted to use, and now I'm going to get ready to trace my template. To trace my template, I'm simply going to flip my paper over onto the back. Now, here's a little tip. Keep in mind, if your paper has a directional pattern, meaning you can't just trace it and then it'll look fine, make sure you pay attention to that, because if you don't, you might end up with a wonky donkey shade that is turned sideways or what have you. So since both of my pieces of paper were directional, I had to make sure that I was tracing my template correctly. So I'm just going to trace one, and then I'm just going to stack the papers and go ahead and cut them out. All right, and it did take me a little bit of playing around to get my shades how I wanted them. So what I did was I just took some double-sided tape and stuck it on the edge of a shade, and then I kind of just played around with how tall I wanted it to be. I ended up wanting a skinny shade and then kind of a fatter shade, so it did take a little bit of kind of, like I said, messing around with it to get it how I wanted. But once I did that, then I was ready to just go ahead and trim off the extra, and then it would be ready to go. For the last project, you will need one of these Easter signs, a 2-pack of the clay pots, some chalk paint and paintbrush, Dollar Tree dowel rod, some fabric, and then something to fill your pot along with a piece of green foam to hold your dowel rod. The first step is just to go ahead and paint one of these clay pots. So I'm just using the chalked linen white paint, and I'm just going in and just kind of dry brushing it on there. After I've gotten paint all over it, I'm just, any spots where there's a heavy amount of paint, I'm just actually going to use my finger, sorry this is not in shot, and just kind of smear it in and get it how I want it to look. Once the pot is painted, you simply want to pry off your little bunny off of the sign. You'll probably notice my little cream wax brown lid right there. I did actually paint my dowel rod, but I ended up shoving it down in the pot and it wasn't noticeable. So if your dowel rod is going to be exposed and you want your bunny up a little higher, then definitely stain it or paint it, but you don't need to if you're just going to press it down. I'm also going to take off this little twine bow and save it for later. Now you're going to want to take some of that fluff and attach it to the front of your bunny. Now you don't have to do this step if you don't want to. I just knew I didn't want my bunny to look flat once the fabric was attached. So I'm just going to go ahead and put kind of a bunch on there, and then I'm going to trim it back to where exactly that I want it to go. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach my dowel rod to my little bunny. I'm going to use a good amount of hot glue here, and then I'll go back and kind of zigzag it across the top. And then once that's drying, I will go ahead and fill my pot, and then I'll be ready to stick my bunny inside. Okay, my pot's all ready. I'm just doing a few little cleanup snips here, and then I will stick my bunny inside of my pot. And again, you can add any kind of embellishments to this. You could leave it as is if you wanted to, but I did end up going ahead and adding some of the little carrots that I got from Dollar Tree. And here is the finished product. I think it turned out very fun and festive. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned to see some DIY shout outs. And until next time, guys, see you later.